recent report, very latest report actually, shows that London is still the city of choice when it comes to foreign exchange trading. International Financial Services London says the UK accounted for 36% of all FX trading in April this year. This compares to the US in second place with only 14% of the market. However, the figures also laid bare the effects of the global downturn, with the turnover in global FX markets dropping by a quarter compared with 2008. Joining us to discuss is Marko Maslakovic, a senior economist at IFSL. Fascinating data. A couple of points I think was very interesting. One, twice as many dollars are traded in London than are traded in the United States. The second point is the fluency of the data. Despite fears of London losing its preeminence in some of these markets over many years, actually London is trading more in terms of its percentage share than it was in 2004. It's maintaining and building on a preeminent position.
Yes, that's right. I mean, it has slightly increased its share during this period. I mean, I think there are a number of factors that have contributed to this. I mean, if you compare London to Tokyo and New York, London is the leading global center for international or cross-border financial services, whereas New York and Tokyo source a bigger proportion of their business from their domestic markets. London sources a bigger proportion of its business from the international markets, and this translates into foreign exchange activity. And on the other hand, London is probably, well, it is the European capital for hedge funds, investment banking and prime brokerage, and these three areas are important for foreign exchange trading. In the days of an interconnected, globalized electronic world, why has London held its preeminent position? Well, if we look at historically, I mean, historically this market was dominated, I mean, it's an OTC wholesale market, so the trading is dominated by large banks, and the interbank market up until a decade ago accounted for about 2/3 of global trading, and this has come down, and now trading is dominated by customers. And as you say, this is largely due to electronic trading platforms which have made it easier to access this market. So at the moment, electronic trading accounts for about 53% of foreign exchange activity, and this is likely to increase to about 80% over the next couple of years. And London, I mean, it offers various advantages. I mean, the infrastructure, the technology is there. So, I mean, it's a sort of natural home for foreign exchange trading. I mean, there are also the wider sort of issues, the geographical zone. I mean, it's sort of located between Asia and the US. And so all these factors are contributing.
Let me say something slightly controversial here. What I think is interesting about the numbers is not how much the UK has seen an increase, it's how much the US has seen a daily decline in trading volume. And it just strikes me that because the Americans have got a little tougher on regulations surrounding the movement of money, there's probably been some like water evaporating into sand, or the money is just leaving the US because of concerns about inhibition of activity. I wonder if you'd care to comment on that, and whether ultimately the UK is going to have to face some of the similar headwinds as international pressure comes to bear on London to get a little tougher on the flow of capital.
Yeah, well, there has been a decline in the US, and on the other hand, a sort of small increase in London and Japan and Singapore. So, I mean, I think the credit crisis has sort of thrown up certain issues. I mean, we've seen a cross-board decline over the past year in foreign exchange trading. There was a fall of about a quarter on previous year's levels, and I mean, this wasn't just in the US. I mean, it was across board, across all currency pairs, across all geographic regions. So I wouldn't necessarily isolate the US too much. I mean, there was global deleveraging over the past year, which would have contributed to the fall. There was subdued international investment activity, particularly of hedge funds, whose assets have fallen by, as we know, about a third in 2008. And also the international trade flows have come down in 2008, and they're likely to stay down during this year as well.
How much of this is just down to tradition as well? I mean, it seems to me that the UK, within the past couple of years, at least from what I can tell from your data, has been the dominating hub for Forex trade. How much of it is just down to that's just the way it is, and that's why we continue to see business this way? I mean, the US has been very dominant in equity trade for I don't know how long. I mean...
Yeah. I would agree with that. I mean, London is, as I said, the leading global international centre for cross-border financial services.
In other words, we can speculate that it's because the U.S. is losing share, or London is becoming more dominant or whatever. But if that's just the way the system is set up, then that's the way the system is set up. And also with the time differences between Asia and the U.S., London might fit nicely in the middle.
It's all these factors combined, I would think.
I mean, I think that the time difference is the thing that people always talk about. But I think I'm right in saying that actually Wellington, New Zealand, has the best time zone. So it's not purely that. But I think when you say it's tradition, it's this critical mass effect. That it always seems that you don't want lots of competition on your doorstep, but in practice you do. If you're a bioscience park in Cambridge, the more of them there are, the better a place it is to do business, because people can move there, and if they lose their job with that startup enterprise, they can find another one without having to move across the country or across the globe. And that's how London has its competitive advantage. It's partly regulation, but it's partly that there's lots of other people doing that, so your risk as an individual is reduced by coming to London, because if that job doesn't work out, there's another job potentially across the road type of thing. And I suppose my worry with the competitiveness issue is that it doesn't happen suddenly. It happens, you slowly erode your competitiveness. I thought it was a very bad idea. London is very reliant on a lot of foreigners coming here, a lot of whom are non-doms, and what happens when you change that, make that regime more punitive, it's not that people leave, it's that they choose not to come, and so your competitiveness gains are eroded over time rather than in one sudden and sort of headline-grabbing way.
Marko, we've got to let you go, but thanks very much for coming in and bringing the report to our attention. Marko Maslakovic, a senior economist at IFSL.